Welcome to the Scott and Brandon Show, a show where we entertain the pressing biblical, social, and political issues of today. My name is Scott Jackson, and this is my co-host, Brandon Ulmer. Our aim is to have open conversations about serious topics and to build up the body of Christ in the process. If you're interested in theology, applying scriptural principles to our daily lives, or political and social issues as they relate to Christianity, you'll definitely want to tune in. This is the Scott and Brandon Show. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Scott and Brandon Show. My name is Scott Jackson, and joined, as always, with my co-host, Brandon Ulmer. We're coming at you a little bit later than we usually do during the week. Our episodes usually come out on Tuesdays. We record either Monday or Tuesday morning. But Brandon over here decided to get sick this week and had to postpone recording. So, Brandon, are you feeling any better today?
I'm feeling much better. I was down. I was not getting out of bed. I was sick, and I don't know what it was, flu, COVID, whatever it was, but it won, and I was down, and I was not getting up. So,
oh man, well, I'm glad you honored your lifelong commitment to the show. So, no, just full transparency. I told Brandon it was okay if we couldn't record this week. It's not a big deal.
I was looking forward to hearing you being a monologue.
No, I hate monologuing.
You hate monologue.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to sit here and talk at myself for an hour.
But you have the voice for it.
Well, that's besides the point. I appreciate your kindness.
You could just be like, in today's episode, I'm going to read a Christmas story. For Christmas. All through the house. No?
Yep. Could do that.
It didn't sound.
Read a Christmas Carol in its entirety.
Yeah, there you go. Could have even made it sound a little sensual. But
oh, Lord.
Oh, boy.
No, I'm not doing that, Brandon. Oh, my word. But today, we do have an interesting topic. It is Christmas time, as all of you are aware if you're listening to this in real time. And we're talking about kind of the question that pops up every Christmas. Is Christmas pagan? Are the Christmas traditions pagan? Does Christmas have pagan roots? This comes up every year on Christmas and Easter. And to me, it's just, in the words of our wonderful president, it's malarkey. It's ridiculous. So Brandon, before we kind of dive into the subject matter, what's kind of your initial opinion on this? What, like, have you been confronted with questions about Christmas's supposed pagan origins?
I mean, for many years now, but I never gave thought to it. I never looked into it at all until recently, because I said I was teaching it as part of history this month. This whole month is historical roots of Christmas. So it is very fascinating. But before we dive in, we forgot to stick with the tradition to announce we have only 41 days until Trump is inaugurated.
That's true. Till second Christmas.
Second Christmas, folks. We have 41 days, folks. And the guy is being treated as already he is president. I mean, he is overseas. Excuse me. Being welcomed by foreign political leaders. And they are, I mean, if you look at the photos and the people's faces, it almost seems to me that there's a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Like, President Trump, he's back, right? And now, and it's being floated around more and more of Canada becoming a 51st state and Mexico being a 52nd state now. And I mean, this is on mainstream media, and obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. If any of the two are going to go, I think it'd be more likely Canada if they were to actually give in to be a 51st state. But it's interesting, the talk now that is swarming around this. Could this happen? I would say typically no, but then again, you just never know. You never know when it comes to geopolitics.
That's true.
No.
Yeah, highly doubt Canada becomes the 51st state just because it's just so impractical, right? Like there's so many, like Canada's an entire country. We're not talking about just a territory here. We're talking about, like, it's not like Puerto Rico or Guam or something like that. We're talking about Canada. Multiple different territories make up this country.
Well, I think it'd be cool if we can get some merch, with our logo on it, but have some.
Oh my word!
Make Canada the 51st state. And we start
make Canada great again.
Yeah, dude, that would be sick.
But then we won't be able to call Canada America's evil top hat anymore.
No,
I'll be disappointed because that's how I affectionately refer to the country.
Well, yeah, it would be still hilarious for all those.
It would be funny. It would be funny. It would be funny.
Trump came and got you. Couldn't run away, could you, folks? Anyway, all right, back to
the allure was just too much.
Yeah, back to the.
It was too much.
That's good. As I said, I've heard about this stuff, all the pagan stuff, for years, and I never gave much thought into it, researched it, whatever, until recently. My thoughts on it now: yes, I would say there's a lot of pagan similarities. There's a lot of pagan rituals that are still performed that are rooted in pagan practices, which caused me to certainly have a moment of truth, I guess, with myself when I realized, wow, there is a lot that we do during the Christmas season that can certainly be attributed to pagan activities. Not everything can be confirmed, but there is certainly a decent amount of evidence to show that, in my opinion here, that there is a lot of pagan similarities. Do I still consider myself celebrating paganism and the winter solstice and Saturnalia and all these other, because it was celebrated all over the world and referred to many different names.
Right.
Excuse me. But Saturnalia, which is the Romans celebrating it, and winter solstice, which is the Celts, are predominantly the two that are most known about. Right. But again, celebrated all over the world. The Vikings, the Chinese, everyone had their own version of the winter solstice, right? And you see some of the practices that they wrote about are still being done today. So it is. I can't deny that there's some certainly pagan stuff, pagan roots of Christmas. But I have my take on, and my own reason. I think we will obviously get to that as we progress through it here.
Yeah. That's kind of
should we celebrate paganism? Should we celebrate the winter solstice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you were touching on is kind of the whole, the entire meat of what we're getting at is, we're going to answer a few different types of questions.
Yeah.
Like, what are the claims that Christmas is a pagan holiday? Do these claims have any validity? Why is Christmas on December 25th? Can Christians celebrate Christmas even though it's the same date as pagan holidays?
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about some cultural things, how culture and association of cultural icons, cultural words, even symbols, even change over time. And a couple of examples of icons that we don't really take any thought or consideration at all in their original meanings. So it's going to be an interesting show for you guys. We're excited to get in. Before we go ahead and just jump straight in, I'm just going to remind everybody to go ahead and subscribe to the show, like the show, share the show, comment on the show. Go ahead and get this stuff out of the way from the jump. It helps us out greatly if you share it, leave a review, like it. Even if you dislike it, helps us out even then. So go ahead and do all of that stuff for us. We would greatly appreciate it. Like I said last week, looking to try to slowly expand the show as we have been, I guess, since its inception. So we are excited to see where we potentially can be. You know, we're almost 25 episodes in, so it'd be cool to see where we're at episode 50. So appreciate all the help in that regard. So with all that being taken care of, we'll go ahead and jump on in. Brandon, you touched on the two main claims that Christmas is a pagan holiday, which is that Christmas falls on the winter solstice, and that it also falls on the same day as the Roman celebration of Saturnalia, which is the celebration or festival towards the Roman god Saturn. Do these claims have any validity? Is there any sort of like actual proof, evidence, anything like that these have actually fallen on the same date, and I guess maybe might be even the same holiday?
There's definitely huge debate as far as did it fall on the 25th or not, and the majority of folks will say it happened around the 25th or on, and some say the 25th as well. And there are, historical accounts of it taking around about the 25th, close to it, after it, so right around there. And when it comes to the winter solstice, right? For those who are unaware what the winter solstice is, it is the longest night of the year, right? It is the day when the sun will set much, much, much earlier in the day, right? So the day is shorter and the night is longer. And the winter solstice and Saturnalia as well was in really a time of celebrating to keep the Yule log burning. Right? Obviously, the Yule log, we see that here during the Christmas season, the 21st century, we still do the Yule log. But the idea was to, appease the gods, right? The gods during this time were obviously had the Oak King and then the Ivy King, I think was the guy's name. The Oak King was the god of the earth, right? The Ivy King was of plants and vegetation and I can't remember the other guy. Can't remember the other one. Maybe it was the Ivy King. Anyways, and these two would swap. Every spring and winter solstice, they would swap roles, right? And what the people would do is, because since the night was so much longer, right, they would keep the Yule log burning. And as they kept the Yule log burning, right, they would celebrate. There'd be animal sacrifices, debauchery, gambling, all sorts of different types of stuff. But it was a night to commemorate, right, and to keep the fires burning, so you keep the evil spirits away, right? You appease the god by celebrating and decorating with ivy and mistletoe, because that's a vegetation that the winter would not kill, right? And we've seen that ivy and mistletoe continue to live on in the depths of winter. And so a lot of these things that they would do, and such as the exchange of gift giving, was a practice, right? Decorating trees with fruits and things of that nature was another thing. Evergreens, obviously, the practice of the evergreen. So again, a lot of these are historical facts of practices that took place at these, Saturnalia or winter solstice or wherever region, however they celebrate the winter solstice. These are the different types of acts that would take place. So again, no historical evidence to point to that it actually took place on the 25th, but definitely historical evidence that shows it took place around or on about the 25th of December.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Yeah. Lots of good information there. Very helpful, certainly. Yeah, so I guess just to summarize, you did a great job of explaining what the winter solstice and Saturnalia, those celebrations were exactly. And it kind of goes into our next, I guess, question as it relates to Christian and its Christmas and its supposed pagan origins. Why is Christmas on December 25th? The claim is obviously these two holidays fall on December 25th, and Christmas came out of these holidays. Not that Christmas is its own holiday or anything like that, but at the time of Jesus, right, the Roman culture obviously celebrated a holiday in December. We just talked about Saturnalia. It's a festival honoring the god Saturn, and it was observed from December 17th to approximately December 24th.
Yeah.
Later on, the Romans introduced Sol Invictus, or the unconquered sun, associated with the winter solstice. So you mentioned earlier at the top of the show, winter solstice was Celtic. This, I guess, would be the Roman equivalent.
Yes.
And they celebrated it on December 25th. So when Rome officially adopted Christianity as its state religion, back in the 4th century, the Roman Church transformed Saturnalia and Sol Invictus into a Christian holiday featuring the Nativity to commemorate Jesus' birth. This move provided a spiritually uplifting alternative to the pagan Saturnalia celebrations. The sinful customs and debauchery associated with Saturnalia were, quote, purified, and some of its traditions were incorporated into the Christmas festivities. So there is a little bit of a connection between these two holidays here and the Christian holiday of Christmas. So back in the 4th century, we had Constantine. He made Christianity the state religion, the imperial religion of the Roman Empire, and which was a big move because at that time, a generous guesstimate of the amount of the Roman population that was actually Christian was about 15%. So Constantine doing this, one, totally unpopular with the vast majority of his population. That would be like America changing its country, like its state religion, its a country recognized religion to like Hinduism or something. Doesn't necessarily make any sense, but nonetheless, it was done. And they decided to, instead of celebrating these pagan gods, decided to celebrate the one true God. And so Christians have, I guess, redeemed December 25th, and Christmas has consistently been celebrated as the birth of Christ. To my knowledge, and Brandon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's not really ever been a time where Christmas was a celebration honoring a pagan god or recognizing a pagan god. Christmas, as we know it, has always been celebrating the birth of Jesus.
Yeah, I think Christmas, for certainly it took on, because they wanted to celebrate the birth of Jesus. I will say though that well, for me, I cannot deny the pagan roots of Christmas. There are certain pagan roots. When you're decorating a tree, that's a pagan ritual, right? You're using ivy, mistletoe, pagan ritual, right? Burning of a Yule log, pagan ritual, right? I mean, there is. I cannot deny that there is these pagan things that certainly carried over into the church wanting to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And I think that's, that was certainly true. That, they still wanted to celebrate the winter solstice. They still wanted to celebrate Saturnalia, very popular festivals. But Christians obviously would have felt very bad because they knew it would have been in worship of either, their Gus, the Saturn god of the Romans, right? Or, whatever other god they were worshiping in that region. But, that, and so they said, hey, let's just rebrand it. Let's Christianize it.
Sure.
Right. And, that's what I see that certainly happened here. There are historical accounts of, the birth of Jesus actually being recorded at more in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot the one writer. I'll have to find it in my records here. But it is recorded, and I forgot what year it was said, but that Jesus was so-called reported as it was spoken by this person. And I'll have to find the name on it, or where I found it on the video. But that Jesus was born sometime around, I think it was May. And that's
sure.
Right there. But the church decided to, hey, let's move it to December.
Yeah.
Replace it with the winter solstice in Saturnalia.
Yeah, and I think there is something to be said about the desire to highlight God, the one true God,
Yeah.
Jesus, in the midst of people trying to highlight false gods, right? Because it could be something as simple as, well, they're celebrating these pagan gods, these demonic spirits, and, you know, what if we just take this time to praise and honor and recognize the God of the Bible?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that, but you did say something earlier that, burning the Yule log, decorating with mistletoe, decorating a Christmas tree, those are pagan rituals. So
Being rooted in pagan during the pagan festival.
Sure.
So that way, see how that's going to help save parents money right there. You don't want to participate. That'll help. And for those that don't want to, buy gifts for anybody, just I say I don't celebrate the winter solstice. If that's how you want to save money.
Yeah. We'll get into that. That's not an excuse.
There you go.
So Brandon, I have a Christmas tree in my house that is decorated. I actually have 4, thanks to my wife. She loves Christmas.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you have a Christmas tree in your house. Maybe not yet, but you will.
We have several.
Actually. Yeah. So are we celebrating? Are we performing some sort of pagan ritual unknowingly, or does the fact that it maybe used to be a pagan ritual doesn't necessarily mean anything today? And also, are there other examples historically of people decorating trees that are not pagan in nature?
Yeah. So as far as like I said, we have many trees up right now currently throughout our house. And, my wife loves the trees. Kids love the trees. Right? I am teaching my kids the historical roots of Christmas. I want my kids to be well informed, right? And so we've discussed this stuff in our house. But when it comes to decorating the tree, in my opinion, does it have obviously the pagan roots to it? Yes, it does. Am I celebrating paganism? No. Just as Christ comes into one's life and rebrands and retransforms, reimages, that's how I've looked at the Christmas holiday season. The tree is rebranded. It is not being used in celebration to the Oak King, right? It is in that he may, make it through and endure the long darkness and the harsh, cold winter season and come forth in the spring ready to give his bountiful blessings of fruits and vegetables on the earth, right?
Right.
I'm not doing it for that reason. Right? And then, well, like before I press on, I'll be like, the thing I keep finding interesting, because I'll say this, as a Christian, and there are Christians who are on the fence about this, especially in the homeschool world. I've seen it as well. Not studying Greek mythology, the gods, things like that. We don't study that stuff. I find this stuff fascinating.
Yeah.
I love studying about gods, reading about gods and their mythology, and because it's all part of the culture, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to know, right? So I don't have a problem reading about this stuff. But the cool thing about the winter solstice that I found fascinating, it is all about, in a nutshell here, the celebration of light over darkness, right? Mm-hmm. The darkness has come, but the light will overcome. And that was the whole thing about the winter solstice. That was the theme. Yep. That's why they would keep the Yule log burning. And then that's why, after the winter solstice, when it was done, they preserved what was left of the Yule log, right? And then they would save that Yule log, right? And then offer it the next winter solstice, right?
Yeah.
To keep the fire going. And so going back to the tree here, yes, does it have the pagan roots to it? Yes, it certainly does. Are there people who probably certainly celebrate the winter solstice? Yes, they certainly do. There are people who do celebrate the winter solstice, and it's all pagan form and everything.
Sure,
certainly do that.
Sure.
But no, when I put up a tree, it is not for the winter solstice. It has been rebranded by Jesus. And that's how I look at it here. The tree is hung up, right? The tree represents the tree that Jesus would remind us, hey, Jesus died on the tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put the lights on the tree, right? Because even they did that during the winter solstice, putting lights, candles, all those type of different stuff. They, the lights represent Jesus as a lot of work. I mean, you can add all your symbolism to it as you want, right? And there's people who put the tree up for pure secularism, because that's just what the secular world does. You just put it up. That's modern Christmas, 2024 for you. So that is my justification.
Yeah, sure. And I do think, like you said, there is evidence to suggest that Christmas, what we know as Christmas trees, were used in the pagan celebrations of the winter solstice. There's also some evidence to suggest that as far as like decorating trees, setting up trees around Christmas time, that this was also done in like the German culture, right? So I do think setting up trees, decorating trees, it's more of a shared cultural experience as opposed to strictly a pagan ritual that was rebranded.
Mm-hmm.
And it may have started that way in back in the 4th century of the Roman Empire, but it certainly isn't that now.
Yeah,
and hasn't been probably since the 4th or 5th century. We kind of touched on, can Christians celebrate Christmas even though it's the same holiday or the same day as a pagan holiday? I think all of this that we're talking about right now kind of goes into that, into answering that question. But
well, I think it also, as I told my kids here, this is going to be a matters of one's conscience, right?
Yeah.
Not all Christians agree on alcohol, right?
Right.
Obviously, the Bible says it's not a sin, but you'll have Christians who argue with you, move to your blue in the face, that drinking alcohol is a sin, right?
Sure.
Drinking alcohol should be done wisely, by all means, right, as the Bible says. But for some people, though, drinking alcohol is a sin because it violates their conscience. And so therefore, to them, if they were to drink alcohol, it is a sin, as Paul said.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a matters of conscience here. If it bothers you that much, right, then do not. Then it will become a thing of sin for you, right? I think that's just going to be the bottom line right there. Where I live, I'll say this here, where I live, the culture and the community, swearing is a big thing. And I have my stance on swearing. I believe as a Christian, you should not use, swear words. You should not, use foul language of any kind, right? Because Scripture said, let things that are praiseworthy come out of your mouth. But in the area I live, there's a lot of my fellow believers and brothers and sisters in the Lord, right, who do swear, and they have their personal theological opinion on it, and I see their reason for it, and I respect that, and I don't judge them for it when we're having a normal conversation about Jesus, and some four-letter word pops out of their mouth like it's just natural, right? And which I find kind of humorous as we're talking, but it doesn't bother me. I'm not gonna run away and hide, right? Now,
Sure.
My conscience, though, I would feel very guilty in saying something, so I would not do it. So, again, it's just going to go down to, to one's conscience when it comes to this matter of putting up a tree or whatever, whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, like we touched on, some elements of Christmas celebration, the bells, the candles, holly, Yule log, they've all been mentioned in the history of pagan worship, but their use in one's home does not imply a return to paganism, I think is what we're getting at. Christians simply celebrate Christmas as a way to remember and honor the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Celebrating Christmas is a matter of personal conviction. And I do think that is true here. And I was going to reference Romans 14, verse 5, but I didn't have it pulled up. So, yeah, it says, one person considers one day more sacred than another. Another considers every day alike. Each of them should be fully convinced in their own mind. So, we can obviously apply that to Christmas. Some people hold Christmas as a very important day. December 25th is the important day. Other Christians maybe don't hold as much stock in actual December 25th, but are fully willing to celebrate the birth of Christ around that time. There are always those people out there that say, well, he wasn't actually born on December 25th. To which I would say,
no duh.
Yes, we all know. We all know that. Everybody knows that. We all know Jesus wasn't actually born on December 25th. It's the day of recognition. Okay.
No duh, Sherlock.
Right.
What I would say. And now, I'd rather say the other thing said, but my conscience would be violated if I said it the other. I was supposed to say.
Brandon, this is a family show.
It is a family show. No, it was funny because my wife and I are watching this show the other day, and it's Castle. It's The Castle, which is a really good show. Older show, obviously.
Yeah.
And the detective, I think her name is Beckett on there, and the scene pops up, and she's shut the, and you anticipate that she's gonna drop the F-bomb, but she says shut the front door, right? And I burst out laughing. I was like, that's pretty good. And I was like, shut the front door, like that. What she's implying there, what she's insinuating right there.
Yeah, that's a Christian swear word.
Yeah. So now I use it in a joking manner. I would say, shut the front door, Yeah.
That's funny.
That's funny.
Oh man, so we spent a lot of time talking about some Christmas symbols. I'm doing this all episode, and I don't know what's wrong with me. Christmas symbols, the Christmas tree, the Yule log, how all of these things maybe have started out of pagan celebrations, to which I would say probably most of what we do in the world, it was rooted in paganism, because for a long time, paganism was the standard operating procedure of the world. But I think there are some modern examples that we can look at of iconization, some symbols, just maybe even people, names, that kind of thing, that have maybe lost their original meaning. The first one is the swastika, right? So the swastika for a long time, I think also specifically in the Hindu religion, is a symbol of good fortune, and it was for thousands of years. This is why it was adopted by the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party was promising to revive Germany after World War I, to make, to bring Germany through its recovery and to make it a world power and to just rehabilitate it. This is what the Nazi Party was. That was their sales pitch to the German people, and their symbol was the swastika, which at the time, no one looked at the swastika and thought genocide of millions of people. No one thought that, especially in 1930s Germany when they were just using it.
Yeah.
When the Nazi Party adopted the swastika, it was a symbol of good fortune. It was a symbol of peace.
Mm-hmm.
It was a symbol that had been used for thousands of years to describe peace, good fortune, these types of things. But now, if we were to decorate our houses with swastikas and say, oh, no, I'm using it as its original meaning of peace and good fortune, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
It's totally ludicrous.
Yeah, now it's a Nazi symbol.
Now it's a Nazi symbol. Now it's a symbol of
hate,
the Holocaust, anti-Semitism, evil. No one in their right mind would use the swastika and say, well, this is what it was originally intended to mean.
Yeah.
They would just look at you like you're stupid.
Yeah.
Because you would be. That would be incredibly inappropriate. Right. But the point being, the original meaning is irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant because of its cultural significance today.
Yeah.
What it means today.
Yeah.
And I think The same goes for things like the Christmas tree, the Yule log, mistletoe, decorating, all of that kind of thing that maybe its original meaning was in pagan celebrations, but nowhere near that today. It does not mean that at all in any capacity today, by and large, in the culture. The second one that I had here, and Brandon, if you have any more, you're welcome to throw them in there, would be Nike. So when I say the word Nike, most people go to the shoe brand, the athletic brand, the clothing brand. No one is going to think about the Greek goddess of victory, whose name is Nike, right? Google, search Google, or go to Google and search Nike.
Yeah,
I guarantee you're not going to come up with anything about a Greek goddess.
I'll be honest, I didn't know that even about Nike. My two oldest daughters love Nike, and they've asked for Nikes for Christmas. I got
pagan.
Yeah, so they're gonna be wearing their Nike. I think they call them pandas because
they're pagan shoes.
I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so they're gonna be wearing and running around in them. So
hey, there you go. Supporting paganism one step at a time.
Yes. Yeah.
Get it? Because they're shoes. Oh no.
Oh man.
Oh. But okay, we're getting off the rails here. But when someone sees the Nike swoosh, right? No one is going to associate that with Greek mythology. Everyone is going to associate that with the modern athletic clothing brand. Again, its original meaning completely irrelevant in the culture today. Completely irrelevant in the culture. So I do think there are several examples of symbols, of icons, of people, places, things that had one meaning hundreds, thousands of years ago that do not have that meaning any longer, right? So those were just probably the two most prominent ones that we wanted to discuss today. You got anything to say on that as far as like things that their meaning changing over time? The swastika is probably the most recent one. We're not even 100 years removed from that.
Yeah.
So
almost, though, if you think about it, it's getting crazy.
Almost. It's been about 90 years.
World War II was that long ago, right?
Yeah. Which unfortunately people forget.
Yeah. Nike and all this. So again, there's probably so many more. And who knows? There's so many more. But again, that stuff has been lost in translation. Mm-hmm. And I think Starbucks. The image of it is God, goddess, or whatever it is, right? So like, cheers every time you drink into the goddess, right? I mean, I said I don't.
Yeah.
There's probably an element in almost everything you can find. Maybe some historical pagan ritual.
Well, because like we mentioned earlier, paganism for a long time was a standard operating procedure for the whole world.
Yeah.
Most of the world was pagan for most of human history.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think we're kind of getting back to some paganism in the culture today, but that's another episode.
Yeah.
But I guess to kind of, we're going to move into another aspect of Christmas here. But, do the Christmas traditions have pagan roots? That's traditionally where they're accepted to have come from, although we are so many thousands of years removed from these pagan celebrations that they almost have no meaning at all. The tradition of decorating Christmas trees is attributed to the Germans, and actually there's some historical evidence to suggest that Martin Luther was the first one to decorate a Christmas tree, honoring Christmas.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's the 4th century was even before that. Obviously, Christmas at this point is already an established holiday, and Martin Luther, obviously a great reformer of the faith, is accredited with starting the Christmas tree decorating tradition. So just another example there of this using a Christmas tree, using ornaments and lights and decorations during this time of year, losing its original meaning, even a few hundred years removed from the 4th century, as opposed to, let alone now. Yeah. No one thinks about pagan celebrations at Christmas time. Maybe there's a few people out there, but
Yeah.
By and large, no one thinks about pagan celebrations. I'm not thinking about the winter solstice when I'm putting up my 4th Christmas tree in the house. So, but that brings us to the ever important question. You know, you're in the homeschooling community, so
you will. Now you will, though, every time.
I probably will now.
Burn.
You're right. You're right.
This is winter solstice.
Oh man,
you're gonna have to pray every single time.
We're gonna have to pray for forgiveness. Oh my word!
It is one of those things you do, and maybe this is why I never studied it, because I was like, I don't want to know that stuff because then I'm gonna be held accountable, right, for my decisions. And studying this stuff, I can't deny the historical roots, yes, of the Christmas practices and traditions that are rooted and established in paganism. I can't deny it. The historical documents even exist to show it. They exist. You can look on the internet. They exist. But it doesn't. I've come to a place in the walk where I am at Lord. I am content with still putting up a tree, because I know it is not an acknowledgement of winter. This is an acknowledgement of Christ.
Yeah, and I think something to consider is just, again, the cultural meaning today. I think that does have some weight and validity to it. I think that's a valid argument. And another thing, just anecdotally for me, a Christmas tree is something that my wife and kids enjoy putting up and decorating, and my kids like to put decorations on the ornaments. This is why we have plastic ornaments for our trees, so the kids don't drop them on the floor and break them, right? But it's something fun to do. Like in my house, we always decorate for Christmas around Thanksgiving because my wife loves Christmas, loves the time of year. So do my kids, and we watch through the Star Wars trilogies and decorate for Christmas. It's just what we do. It's what me and my wife have done every year since we've been married. Don't know why we watch Star Wars while we do it, but we do. And it's just something fun.
Yeah.
It's something fun to do. It's something fun for the kids. The kids like seeing the lights. The kids like having little miniature Christmas trees in their room for like the nightlight or whatever. And it's fun. Yeah. And I think it's innocent fun. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Maybe you need to go and
altar to the Oak King in your son's room while you're at it.
You know what? Maybe I should.
No.
Maybe I should. But I don't think there needs to be this like grandiose argument against like why I'm allowed to have a Christmas tree in my house. I think the counter argument of, and again, this goes back to conscience. This goes back to, is it okay for you? For me, it's something fun that my kids enjoy doing. We have the Christmas, the train that goes around the Christmas tree, and they enjoy driving that around, and it's fun and it's innocent fun, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we can leave it at that, and that's, at least for me, my justification in it. It's just good fun, and I think that's okay.
You're going to hell.
Well, no, I'm not. But this brings us to the ever-present question at this time of year. What do we do with Santa Claus? What do we do with this mythical man who breaks into everybody's house in the same night?
Diabetes.
Right, and encourages materialism and is this magical, mythical person that lives in the North Pole with a bunch of miniature-sized people who slave and build toys for him all year long, and they bribe kids to behave properly with toys, which parents probably do on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Same. What do we do with Santa?
Well,
and you're in the homeschooling community, Brandon, and I may be in the near future. My kids aren't exactly of primary school age yet. So what's the going debate about Santa? How do you handle Santa with your older children?
So it is,
or any of your children.
So, obviously, my oldest, we, when obviously they were little, my wife grew up not believing in Santa.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they grew up. I grew up believing in Santa. Like I grew up believing in watching the Santa Claus, the original Santa Claus, of the whole series, the first one.
Yeah.
Right. Hands down. Don't argue with me on that one. Right? And that to me was magical. Right. So I grew up believing in the fat guy. And yeah, that inspired me to want to live righteously so I would get presents. Right. And that was, that's what I believed. And then obviously I was told later on as a kid, hey, the guy's not real. We've been lying to you for years. And then I was emotionally traumatized. Eventually I went to therapy and I recovered, right?
There you go. Beautiful.
Kidding about the therapy part. But, but I was like, it's fine. Let's do that with our kids. So we have allowed that to continue to at least we have 6 kids, right? Others, but we haven't, but obviously 4 of them, 3 of them now know that Santa is not real.
Yeah.
Right. And we haven't been overly trying to keep it a secret. It's been something that has been, I guess be convicting of myself about lying about this guy, the Santa Claus. Right? So it is a conflict, you can say, at least in the homeschool community, maybe even the Christian community in general, Christian homeschool community, because not even secularists are homeschooling because they're fed up with wokeness. Anyways, different episode.
Right.
That people are like, no, we don't do Santa.
Yeah.
Or say, yeah, we do Santa, things like that. So yeah, it's debate on both sides, right?
Yeah.
But the idea of a guy who comes around and gives gifts or does not give gifts goes way, 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 way back to not only I know you're going to mention, so I'm going to leave it to that, but I'll throw in the other one, Krampus. Krampus is another figure in history, historical mythology and history, right? Of this Krampus, ugly looking thing, right? That my Glock would very easily take care of.
So you think?
Ever came into my house. Terrifying. I'm like, dude, like, there's no way I'm letting Krampus come in, right? And,
no.
And there's, I forgot, again, I'll have to find the thing, but, kids, we're told you better behave or you will wake up and find either Krampus has left you gifts or you will be awakened to the healing or trying to mend your wounds and bruises.
Yeah, not only if you're bad, you just don't get presents. You get mutilated.
You get a beating, or you can get killed because he will kill you, take you away or whatever, eat you or something like that. I can't remember, but
yeah.
But I'd be like, man, I'd like to see that sucker come into my house.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Who's going to eat who now, right?
Oh man,
it'd be cool. Just get a whole bunch of Marines in a room waiting for Krampus to show up. Would be so great. Anyway, but yeah, that's and to answer your question there. But let me because I
no worries. Handling Santa Claus is something that my wife and I are kind of wrestling with right now because our oldest is 4, and he knows who Santa is. So does our middle child. She knows who Santa is. And right now it's just fun for them. Like, I don't know if they actually think. I would have to ask him. I don't know if he actually thinks that Santa brings presents or not. But they know who he is, and he's a figure around Christmas time and all of that. And yeah, we're wrestling with how to deal with that, because we don't want to outright lie to our children. and say like, oh yeah, Santa's real, better be good or else you won't get any presents. And I joke with my wife all the time, like if we put Santa's name on any of these presents, it better be the cheap ones, because I'm not getting credit taken away from me by this mythical man who's not real. Excuse me. But Santa Claus obviously is a mythical guy around Christmas time, but he's rooted in a very real person who's Saint Nicholas, right? That's the person you alluded to earlier. Saint Nicholas of Myra, he was a very real person, a Christian man from the 4th century. He got a large inheritance, and he would spread it to aid the poor. So he was known for his compassion and generosity. He became a priest at a very young age and secretly gifted money into people's homes, and sometimes even dropped it down the chimney. And he did this all under the cover of night to conceal his identity. Now, if you guys have listened to any of our episodes in the recent past, we've talked about the Council of Nicaea. St. Nicholas was also present here. And this is my favorite time of year because we get all of the memes of St. Nicholas punching Arius in the face. That's obviously a myth. There's no historical evidence to suggest that actually happened. But there is this myth around the Council of Nicaea that when Arius stood up and started being a heretic, that St. Nicholas stood up and punched him in the face. And it's not necessarily true, but it is very funny because there's a meme that floats around that says, it's time to give gifts and punch heretics in the face, and I'm all out of gifts. So it's funny. It's funny. But St. Nicholas, he passed away on December 6th between the 340s, 350s AD. Children would leave food and straw for him and his donkey, believing that he'd come down from heaven and replace the offerings with toys and treats for the well-behaved. Various versions of the St. Nicholas legend inspire the jolly red-suited gift giver that we know as Santa Claus. That's probably his most realistic roots at Santa Claus. We call him Saint Nick. Obviously, Saint Nicholas was a very real person who did give gifts and gave gifts to the needy, though not to the well-behaved children. So it leads us into how should parents handle Santa. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, but we're coming into the closing 10 minutes or so of the show. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to a lot of Christian parents struggle with lying to their children outright about Santa Claus. I grew up, Brandon, like you, I believed in Santa Claus as a kid and thought he was real. It wasn't very long lived for me because I did wake up in the middle of the night. One night, I remember it clear as day, and saw my parents putting presents under the tree. And it was just all ruined for me.
Emotional trauma, turmoil.
It was.
Face.
I was standing at the top of the stairs. I saw my parents putting presents under the tree.
You poor thing.
Oh, it was brutal. Yeah, I'm all right, though.
No.
After extensive therapy, I was all right. Kidding, of course. I'm kidding. But I do think, again, Santa, like a lot of the Christian Christmas traditions that aren't overtly Christian, decorating Christmas trees, all that kind of stuff that we've already talked about. I think Santa falls into the same boat. It's kind of a matter of conscience, I think.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit more to the whole Santa Claus debate than there is the Christmas tree debate, because we're not lying to anybody to put up a Christmas tree.
That is correct.
So, and this is kind of the balance that me and my wife have struck is, if our kids want to have fun with Santa and even leave milk and cookies out, I will greatly appreciate it. Yeah. Christmas Eve.
Which is also actually rooted in paganism.
So is everything.
Food for Krampus. That started with Krampus. It was one of the things, leaving things out for Krampus.
Yeah, and people also left after St. Nicholas died. People also left food and stuff out because, for his donkey and for him, and they wanted him to come down from heaven and get it and leave toys in exchange. So, I mean, look, we'll let our kids have fun with it. But if my son looks at me and he goes, "Dad, is Santa Claus real?" I'm going to tell him no.
Yeah.
And call it brutal, call it whatever you want. but I can't, like, if confronted with the direct question, I can't lie to my kid.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is the important part of this whole Santa Claus debate. Like, what do Christian parents do about Santa? I think it's fun, just like a lot of other Christmas traditions.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be careful about lying and telling your kid that Santa is real when he's not. I do think we live in a society that accepts lying for the right reasons, for like innocent white lies. Like telling my kid Santa Claus is real probably isn't going to hurt him. There is 1 Peter 3:10 that says, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Obviously, lying is a big thing in the Bible. Not supposed to do it. But there is some evidence to suggest that children may feel deceived and even betrayed when they discover that Santa isn't real. I think a lot of the shock factor that kids experience when they find out that Santa's not real, like if they truly believed in Santa Claus and their parents played into it, a lot of the shock factor that comes from finding out that he's not isn't the fact that this fat red man who gives them presents isn't real. It's the fact that mom and dad lied to me. And it's, kids trust their parents the most they'll trust anybody on the entire earth. So I do think that is also something to consider. Just, you don't want your kids to look at you and say, well, mom and dad lied to me about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
What's next? The Easter Bunny. Probably.
Yeah.
That pagan icon also.
Another episode for Easter.
That's another one for Easter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But I guess in conclusion for the whole Santa thing, and then we can try to put a bow on the episode. I do think we can include Santa in the Christmas celebration as long as the kids know it's pretend. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think going to the mall, sitting on Santa's lap, the whole thing, leaving cookies out, the whole, whatever. Like, all of that is fine and fun and well and good. And you can make that part of the fun Christmas things that you do, like setting up a Christmas tree. But obviously the kids don't look at the Christmas tree and say, oh, praising the Roman god Saturn today. Yeah. No kid does that.
Yeah.
Right. I think Santa is okay as long as the kids know it's pretend. I think the kids can make lists. It's very helpful for me. You sit on the lap at the mall, leave out milk and cookies, just like we talked about. I don't think this will rob them of their joy, and it also gives parents to tell them a chance to tell them, about the true meaning of Christmas. You could even use Santa as kind of a segue into like church history for your kids, right? Describing who Saint Nicholas was, who was a real godly man who dedicated his life to serving others and caring for others, caring for the less fortunate, and how he exemplified Jesus with his life and actions. I do think that probably is a good thing to talk about with your kids, because this is a real life person who Santa Claus is based off of, that we can look at and say, hey, this is, Christmas is all about Jesus. Christmas is all about celebrating the birth of Christ. And what St. Nicholas exemplified is maybe how we should behave all the time, but maybe specifically around Christmas, helping out the less fortunate, helping out the needy, helping out and giving to the people who don't have as much as we do, right? Which is why I'm always a big fan of, as a kid, I remember several times we would get together, my parents would get us together and say, there's this family that we know that can't have Christmas, and we're going to get some toys together for the kids, and we're going to leave it on their porch, and they're not going to know it was us.
Yeah.
And we did that probably 2 or 3 times in my childhood. Obviously, it was impactful because I still remember it. But, and it felt good to do that. And like, don't need the recognition, don't need any of that. But similar to what St. Nicholas did, right? Anonymously gave out his inheritance that he had to the people who had less than he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that is, you, in short, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Just don't lie to your kids. Yeah. I think some Christmas traditions that we should actually worry about, as opposed to arguing about Christmas trees and Yule logs and decorations and Santa Claus, is some of the things that go on during the Christmas time. One would be drinking alcohol, like you mentioned. While drinking, isn't necessarily mentioned as in the Bible as sinful. Drunkenness is. So a Christian celebrating Christmas who does decide to drink should not engage in drunkenness. Feasting is biblical, but gluttony is not. So perhaps, Christians celebrating Christmas just need to be mindful not to partake in gluttony, right? Giving gifts is biblical. I don't think giving gifts has pagan roots. I think we should give gifts all the time. Talks about God giving gifts to his children. Giving gifts is biblical, but going into debt and spending beyond your means, probably not.
Yeah, materialism.
Yep.
If that's the, obviously your intent. And I think that's the hard thing with any parents, because especially when you try to teach them the true meaning of Christmas, right? I remember as a kid, all you're thinking about is just unwrapping those gifts, right?
Yeah.
And for those that read the Christmas story, Christmas morning, they have a hard time with that. I don't know, man. I think that's, in my opinion, that's one of the worst things you could do to a kid Christmas morning.
Reading the Christmas story found in Luke?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, because I'm like, you're trying to get a young kid's mind focused on reading the Christmas story Christmas morning and to draw their attention. Right? That's the intent. It's a good thing to do that. Don't get me wrong. It's a good thing. Is that kid going to pay attention to anything that is being said in that thing, or is he just going to look at the presents the whole time? He's going to look at the presents the whole time, right? Mm. So the question then is, all right, how do you continue to to teach the true meaning of Christmas to your young children? Obviously, when they become, maybe middle school and up age, all right, yeah, read the Christmas story, definitely, morning, whatever the case is. But, when you're trying to really instill it into those younger minds, I think, in my opinion, because we do read the Christmas story. I can't remember if we do it Christmas morning or we do it Christmas Eve. I think we do it Christmas Eve. Because Christmas morning, they're ready to go. They're just ready to go. And with young kids, it's just like, no, we're going to sit here. We're going to read the Christmas story. We're going to read all Luke chapter 2.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Jesus' circumcision and everything.
Everything. Like, it's just like, because I was like, I've seen some parents do that, and I'm like, that's unbearable for the kid.
I know.
Like that.
I remember the first time we sat down with our kids to read the Christmas story, because we do that.
Yeah.
First time we sat down with our kids to read the Christmas story, I got through the birth of Jesus and everything, and then the next subject title was Jesus' circumcision, and I was like, all right, let's open presents.
Yeah.
We probably don't need to talk about that.
Like don't make your kids suffer all morning long, right? I think, yeah, definitely, read the short version of the Christmas story. The very short version of
the shepherds in the field, the wise men coming, read all that,
or even a color book. A picture book of it. Something short. But because you're not going to be able to take that kid's mind away from the presents. That mind is locked in. It is focused. It is laser sharp. Yeah. It is zeroed in. No matter whatever you do.
I remember the feeling as a kid. I remember it. Yeah. It's hard not to be distracted.
It is. So, but yeah, I just know people who they go through this traditional ritual of we're gonna pray. We're gonna do a Bible study.
Yeah,
and we're gonna read in chronological order.
We're gonna write a systematic theology about Christmas. That
must be a miserable Christmas morning, man. I'll be all right.
See, I'm all for reading the Christmas story early, in the morning on Christmas. Yeah. I think that's fine. I think some ways that you can get around the distraction is, one, don't do it in the same room as the presents. Maybe do it in if you have separate rooms in the house, maybe do it in the dining room or do it in the kitchen or do it somewhere else. Do it in your bedroom. Bring all the kids in your bedroom and do it in the bedroom before you go downstairs or into the living room or whatever your house looks like. because I don't think there's anything wrong with starting Christmas morning out reading the Christmas story. I think the intention is a good thing to have, which is to shift the focus from presents to, hey, let's take a minute. This is what Christmas is actually about.
Yeah.
But I think what's helpful in doing that is taking the Christmas season and taking full advantage of it and using the whole season to explain what Christmas is, why Christmas is a thing, what we celebrate at Christmas time, and explaining the true meaning of Christmas. You know, we should take this time to share and explain what Christmas means in the biblical sense to your kids and to your friends and to your family. You know, Christ's incarnation is probably the greatest gift that humanity has ever received. And it really can't be understated. That truly is the greatest gift that mankind has ever received is God with us.
Yeah.
Right. This is God in the flesh, taking on human form and living a life that we lived, but he lived it perfectly, obviously, and was able to atone for our sins in his death on the cross. I spend time with your family reflecting on that throughout the whole season, not just Christmas Day.
We're going through an Advent lesson on the different names of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And but what's been cool too going through this Christmas season is that, you know, we started a couple weeks ago. We're in season 3 now of The Chosen, right?
Yeah.
And all our kids are into it as well, regardless of their age, which is pretty amazing. And that has been something that has helped brought on the reality of you know, Jesus being the reason for the season, more so.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, encourage your parents, you know, get creative. Don't be the parent though who makes your kids suffer Christmas morning. You drag it out. I mean, you can comment. You might disagree with me on it. If you're gonna read the Christmas story, that's a good idea. Do the short version. You know, I remember,
I see what you're getting at.
I remember where my parent. I endured. Well, how many verses are in chapter 2? Of Luke.
Luke is so long.
Yeah.
All of Luke's chapters are like 55 verses.
He's a doctor who's writing this, right?
And as if he couldn't write enough, he also wrote Acts. So it's ridiculous.
So, you know, I'm going to go to Luke 2 right now because I'm just curious because I was like, I remember.
There's probably upwards like 48 to 53 verses, I bet.
Remember, 52 verses. I remember sitting there going through all of Luke chapter 2, and I'm like,
it's so long.
Like, oh,
it's so long.
Read the short version of the Christmas story.
Yeah, I'm reading through Luke right now with a Bible study that I'm a part of, and the chapters are so long.
They are.
They're so long. But so Brandon, let's go ahead and wrap this episode up for today. Do you have any closing remarks, or
go ahead? In the words of Martin Luther, the great Reformationist, right? To act against conscience is neither right nor safe, right? And I know this whole thing is a matter of conscience, right? And, you know, Scripture talks about, you know, Romans 14:23, whatever does not proceed from faith is sin, right?
Yeah.
That's the conscience verse right there. If it violates your conscience, then do not participate. That's okay, right? Now, I think there is, you know, always time to evaluate our beliefs in accordance with what the Bible says, right? And it's okay, you know, if you change your mind on something like that, because the Bible gives you the liberty in Christ to do so. But if it's that strong of a weight bearing, crushing on your soul type deal, you cannot change your perspective because you really believe it's going to violate your conscience before God, then don't do it. Don't do it. Clear as day. And then there you go. To him, it is sin. It is sin, right? Even though there may be liberty there. So that would be my encouragement to you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Don't have much to add. Just really focus on the whole purpose of Christmas, which is God taking on human flesh, God with us. You know, Matthew 1:22 and 23 says, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord has spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. Can't Can't understate that enough. So I think that is good. We'll keep it short and sweet. It's a great time of year. Don't get too wrapped up in all of the paganism debates and stuff and all of that. Brandon put it beautifully. It's a matter of conscience. Lots of these Christmas traditions are a matter of conscience. If you notice anything that's contrary to Scripture, obviously refrain from it. But by and large, Christmas is innocent. Christmas is about Jesus, whether you put up a Christmas tree or not. And yeah, it's just fine.
And remember to show your true appreciation this Christmas season for all your mail delivery drivers that are out there.
Yes. We're looking at you, Cody.
Yes.
We're looking at you.
Packages.
Yes.
Yes. You better get my package here on time.
Absolutely. And your, I'll just say your HVAC providers that come out the day before Christmas, like I do inevitably every year. Every year somebody calls in, they're like, I've got 45 people in my house and my heat doesn't work.
Well, it sucks to be you.
Sorry about that. We'll see you on December 26th.
Get that Yule log out.
All right, we're going to go ahead and end it before this degrades anymore. So everybody go ahead, have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you all next week. Obviously, there'll be another episode before Christmas actually happens. But yeah, go ahead, have a Merry Christmas. Enjoy the time with your family. Enjoy the season. And we will catch you all next week.